At 2:47 p.m. Eastern on a clear afternoon in the northern Arabian Sea, the captain of a massive Iranian cargo ship made a decision that would reshape an entire week of headlines. Not a tactical decision, not a strategic one, a choice, the kind that surfaces when ego collides with hard power, when stubbornness meets a 5-inch naval gun, when a man on the bridge of a 902-foot vessel stares at the destroyer pacing him and tells himself he is not turning around. What unfolded next was filmed, released within hours by U.S. Central Command, and pushed to every screen on the planet by nightfall. It became one of the most striking displays of American naval force this century. And the lesson it delivered was the same one written in fire and salt water across this same patch of ocean nearly 4 decades ago. When Iran tests the United States Navy, the answer is not a discussion. It is fast, complete, and final. Welcome back to Dr. Amelia Grant. If you're new, this is where we unpack the military, geopolitical, and economic stories rewriting the global order. Today's story is how a single Iranian cargo ship tried to punch through an American blockade and what the U.S. Navy did about it. Hit subscribe before we go further, because what happened on April 19, 2026 belongs in every strategist's notebook. The ship at the center of all this is the MV Touska. To grasp the moment, you have to grasp her size. She runs roughly 275 meters bow to stern, close to 900 feet, and her displacement isn't far off an aircraft carrier's. Containers were stacked 7 high across her deck. She wasn't a patrol boat or a frigate. She was a freighter so enormous that the very idea of physically halting her felt almost academic. But the Touska had a problem. She sailed under an Iranian flag, owned by a shipping company that has sat under U.S. Treasury sanctions for years. She was punching through the Arabian Sea at 17 knots, plotted for Bandar Abbas, one of Iran's most vital ports. Standing between her and that destination was something her captain apparently chose to disregard: a U.S. naval blockade. Since April 13th, Washington had been running what analysts were calling the most aggressive maritime interdiction operation in the Persian Gulf since Operation Earnest Will in 1987 and 1988. Vessels going in or out of Iranian ports were being challenged. Ships were being turned. The blockade wasn't symbolic. It was real, and roughly 25 commercial ships had already done the smart thing: approached, weighed it, and reversed course. The Touska did not. That single decision triggered everything that followed. Around 1400 local, the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer USS Spruance picked her up on radar. The Spruance is not a vessel you want to see closing on you if you're planning to defy the U.S. Navy. Over 500 feet long, 9,000 tons, a crew of 329, Tomahawks, torpedoes, standard interceptors, and a 5-inch Mark 45 deck gun capable of putting 20 rounds a minute downrange. Operating with the Abraham Lincoln Strike Group, the Spruance had been working the blockade for 6 straight days. Her crew had run these intercepts before. They knew the script. The captain ordered her in close, and the radio calls began. Motor vessel Touska, this is U.S. Navy warship on your starboard beam. You are approaching a restricted maritime zone. Alter course immediately. Silence. Another transmission. Then another, across emergency, commercial, and military frequencies. Every call recorded, every warning logged. The Navy was building a paper trail that would survive any courtroom and giving the Touska every chance to walk away. 1 hour passed. 2, 3, 4. The sun dropped over the Arabian Sea, and the Touska kept steaming. Silent, defiant, as if the gray destroyer keeping pace beside her wasn't there. The 6-hour mark, the tone shifted. Requests became directives. Motor vessel Touska, vacate your engine room. We are prepared to subject you to disabling fire. That is not negotiation language. That is a notification. The crew had a clean choice: clear the engine room, signal compliance, accept a peaceful boarding, or find out exactly what disabling fire from a U.S. destroyer feels like. They chose to find out. 2022 local, the Spruance opened up. The Mark 45 acquired the engine room. Range, trajectory, wind, sea state, all locked. Then fire. The first round punched into the Touska's engineering spaces like the steel hull was cardboard. A second followed, then a third. The Spruance wasn't trying to sink her. Sinking a freighter that size in international waters creates legal, environmental, and political headaches for years. The aim was surgical: kill the propulsion, stop the ship, take her. Fuel lines ruptured, coolant systems shattered. The engines went quiet. The Touska, moving at 17 knots seconds earlier, drifted to a halt, dead in the water with a U.S. destroyer 500 meters off her flank. Now the real operation began. 15 kilometers north, the amphibious assault ship USS Tripoli had been holding station. Two MH-60S Seahawks were already turning rotors. Marines from the 31st Marine Expeditionary Unit were strapped in, kitted out, weapons hot. The call from the Spruance came in. Touska disabled. Begin boarding. The Seahawks lifted, banked, and ran the 3-minute hop. They came in low from astern, using the Touska's superstructure as cover, then hovered 40 feet over her deck. 12 Marines fast roped down. Full kit, night vision, suppressed weapons. Bridge secured. Crew quarters cleared. Engine room confirmed. From first boot on deck to vessel secure was under 10 minutes. CENTCOM released the footage almost immediately because Washington wanted everyone to see it. Tehran, Beijing, every capital tracking the crisis. The historical echo here is impossible to miss. In April 1988, after the USS Samuel B. Roberts struck an Iranian mine, the Reagan administration launched Operation Praying Mantis. In 8 hours, the U.S. Navy disabled or sank a meaningful chunk of Iran's combat fleet. Different decade, same lesson. The Touska seizure isn't Praying Mantis in scale, but the operational logic is identical. Warnings, documentation, then overwhelming force the moment compliance fails. Iran's reaction was as predictable as it was loud. State media cried piracy. The IRGC-linked Tasnim News quoted the Khatam al-Anbiya Joint Command vowing retribution. First Vice President Mohammad Reza Aref offered the familiar bargain, a free oil market for all or high costs for everyone. The same evening, Iranian forces fired on 3 commercial vessels in the Strait, French, British, Greek, none American. They struck what couldn't strike back. Talks in Islamabad collapsed within 24 hours. The Iranian delegation never boarded the plane. The Touska remains in U.S. custody. Her cargo, reportedly including ammonium perchlorate and related compounds tied to solid rocket fuel production, is being inventoried. The ship herself was never the prize. The message was, and in 1988, as in 2026, the message is the same. The Strait of Hormuz stays open, the blockade holds, and the U.S. Navy doesn't bluff. Subscribe to Dr. Amelia Grant and tap the bell. This story is still moving, and you'll want to be here when it does.